Hi guys, good morning. My name is Bhaskar. I work as product manager at Bulwark Technologies. I'm handling Mimecast and iStorage. So today we are having a webinar of Mimecast. Well, today we will be talking about the latest iteration of Mimecast cyber resilience solution, Mimecast email security 3.0. We'll be covering DMARC analyzer as well as part of it, and brand exploit protect. Then there will be later a Q&A session where you can put your queries. So talking about Bulwark, we are a cybersecurity specialized brand for information security solutions. We have been in this region for more than 20 years. We started our operations in 1999 in UAE, and in 2017 we started in India as well. Then we are associated with more than 22 technology vendors, and we have around 700 plus business partners in Middle East and India. So we have been providing various world-leading solutions to various private and government organizations, and we have a very trained technical and sales team. So we have always made sure that we are associated with award-winning solutions, and we have been providing round-the-clock services through our partners across Middle East and Indian subcontinent. Then so we have a dedicated sales, marketing, and certified technical team to provide our services. That is from my end. Now I will hand over to Mindfire. I will ask somebody from Mindfire, Mr. Rajesh from Mindfire, to say a few words about their office, their company.
Thank you, Bhaskar. So I will take a couple of minutes only to have a brief introduction about Mindfire. Then we will move back to our core session, which is email security or email resilience, and so those kind of things. Webinar from Mimecast. So when it comes to email security or email resilience, DMARC and all, so we are a cybersecurity focused company, and email resilience is very important to organizations. Whenever we see attacks, spear phishing attack is the most preferred option for many of the leading threat actors in targeting the region and globally as well. So there is a dark web focused big business. There is cyber or email or threats or hacking as a service. Those kind of threat sites are there. So when you are trying to protect your organization from all these things, email resilience is the most important thing, is the critical thing, I would say, because every attack, as we can see, starts with a spear phishing attack from the threat actors. So when it comes to Mindfire, we are a cybersecurity focused service company based in UAE. We have around 50 engineers in different verticals of cybersecurity, and we have around 13 partners, globally leading cybersecurity vendors we are partners with. And all these leading vendors, we have certified resources in different verticals. When it comes to Mindfire, it's all about professional services and the certified skill set. It's all about skills to deliver value to our end customers from our leading service providers. Mimecast is one of our key partner, and we help many of our customers protect their enterprise with Mimecast email resilience services. I'm also looking forward to this webinar to have more insights on DMARC, and Mimecast is it's a very unique company when it comes to email resilience, because it keeps on adding to its portfolio. It keeps on adding along with the technology roadmap and challenges. So every other day, new inventions come to the product portfolio. So thank you, Bulwark, for arranging this webinar. Over to the Mimecast team for the session. Thank you.
So thanks, guys. Thanks, Bulwark and Mindfire for the introduction. Just to introduce myself, some of you guys on the call from a attendee point of view may have met me before, but my name is Tariq. Essentially what I do at Mimecast is that I manage the SMB business from a new business perspective. So essentially, all of the customers under 350 users is managed with me. Now, as Mindfire and Bulwark mentioned. Okay, cool. So as I was saying, from a Mimecast point of view, I manage the SMB business. Now, from an email security point of view, Mimecast doesn't just focus on email security. There's a number of things that we do, but just to introduce you to the platform, our platform was built from the ground up. It has always been a cloud-based service. So we've never ever had an on-premise of Mimecast. We've always been in the cloud, and that gives us unique ability to be very agile. As more and more customers are moving to the cloud with things like Office 65, Mimecast is able to, I guess, make that move with customers and help them to be more secure as a move. Now, one important thing to note with Mimecast is that we have around just under 40,000 customers globally. The cool thing about Mimecast, and to be honest, my favorite thing about working with Mimecast is that it doesn't really matter if you're 5 users or 50,000 users. We have some large enterprise customers like your Emirates, your EMRs, your marginal food names, but we also have like your 50 user customers, your 5 user customers. I think the smallest customer we have is 3 users. It's like a small accounting firm here in Business Bay. Now, the point that I'm making is that it doesn't really matter how big or small you are, but because Mimecast, there's only one version of Mimecast. So there's no like enterprise version of Mimecast or SMB version. It's one platform. And if you compare that with some competitors out there, it's not the case. With some competitors, they would have like an enterprise version and a more basic version that caters to SMBs. Now, the good thing for you guys as customers is that essentially you would be getting an enterprise level product, even though you potentially maybe 5 users or 50 users, 100 users, and so on. But now, the way we evolved over the years is that, in the beginning, Mimecast was generally, we focused mainly on your spam and antivirus, and we had archiving solutions as well. But over time, over the last couple of years, we evolved to be more of a security company. Now, this framework that I'm going to take you through is just going to show you how we evolved and what different solutions we cater for the customers, and also what different problems we solve. Now, as the guys at Mindfire mentioned earlier, is that Mimecast is constantly adding more products to our suite, solving more business problems. So customers that had Mimecast 5 years ago, may not have the same products that's out now. So what's cool about Mimecast as well is that when you're on board with us, what you also get is that you get a customer development manager, and that person's sole responsibility is to make sure that you get the most from your Mimecast experience. So, as we add in new products to our suite, as we identify that potentially you have different business requirements, we can take you through those new products to help you solve, new problems. Now, the way we look at Mimecast is that, we try to look at it as something called email 3.0. Now, the way this is broken down is three separate sectors when it comes to your email. The first thing is your perimeter, which is everything related to inbound, making sure that nothing bad comes in. The second part is within your organization, so anything related to your internal environment. And the last part is beyond your perimeter. So everything related to outside of your environment, things that you can't control. So I'm going to take you through zone 1 and zone 2. And Richard, my colleague, is going to take us through zone 3. Okay. Now, just to add as well, just one thing to think about, for the future is that besides the different email zones or, the different security zones, there's a lot of resilience extensions as well that we do add, so things like, archiving, how do we archive your data? Things like web security, how do we make sure that when your users are browsing the internet, they're secure and safe? So there's a lot of extensions that we can help with, to tackle things like, governance and compliance, privacy and encryption and so on. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to start off with zone 1, which is your perimeter. Now, given that more than 90% of attacks start with email, as we know, email is always the easiest way to get into an organization, because essentially, if you target email, you're not targeting, a technology. You're targeting a human being, and obviously humans make mistakes. So 90% of attacks start with email, and we need to make sure that our email isn't just good enough. Our email security isn't just good enough. We need to have a focused and advanced solution to take care of our email threats. Now, what Mimecast offers is that our perimeter plan protects customers against things like your malicious URLs, malicious ransomware, and malicious attachments, business email compromise. So essentially things like your impersonation attacks, your phishing attacks, anything related to malicious mail coming through inbound. This is what Mimecast is going to help you with. Now, the way we do that is through 3 separate products that's included in the bundle. Okay, so it's 3, we call it targeted threat protection, but it consists of 3 different solutions included in one. The first one is around your malicious URLs. Now, what Mimecast is going to do is that whenever a user clicks on a link, we're going to rewrite that link to point to Mimecast, make sure that it's safe. Now, when I say, point to Mimecast, essentially what I mean is we're going to scan the link. We're going to look at the source code of that link, and we're going to look at things like the destination of the website, certificates of the website, reputation of the website, and so on. If there's any phishing kits on the website, etc. If we do find that this website is malicious, we're going to block the user from going to the website. Okay, now one of the key things to consider, and one of the key differences with Mimecast is that we scan the URL on every single click. Now, some vendors out there, what they would do is that they will scan the link as it comes through. The problem with that is that if the URL gets compromised at a later stage, so there's a very common attack called a delayed exploit attack, by which, for an example, let's say I send you an email today, you click on the link, it takes you to a safe website. Maybe tomorrow you click on that same link and your website gets compromised tomorrow. There's no way, because that email has already been accepted by your mailbox, your URL protection solution may not pick up that that's bad. So this is why Mimecast makes sure that on every single click, whether you click on it today, tomorrow, whenever, you're going to make sure that URL is secure. Okay. The second thing that we do is that we look at something called your attachments and your zero-day malware. Now, when we're looking at URLs, or when we consider URLs is generally, or URL attacks is generally to get your username and password. A typical example could be, you get an email, looks like it's coming from Microsoft, that says your mailbox is full. Please click on this link to log in and change your password, or something to that extent. Now, this is where they try to get your passwords. With the attachments, this is generally where ransomware happens. So a typical example could be, you get an email, looks like it's a purchase order from, one of your vendors. It looks like it's come from one of your vendors. When you click on the purchase order or the attachment, it encrypts some files on your machine. And next thing you know, you get another email saying, we have your files, please pay X amount of Bitcoin in order to release these files. Right, so this is where Mimecast will come in, because what we would do is that we would sandbox every single one of these attachments. Now, one of the key things that's different about Mimecast, because if you look on paper, there's plenty of vendors out there that are sandboxing. Essentially sandboxing by definition just means that they're going to test something outside of your environment. So if you consider in Mimecast or consider any other vendor out there, always ask the vendor, what kind of sandboxing do you do? Because on paper, we tick a box and say we do sandboxing, but we need to ask the vendor, what kind of sandboxing do you do? Now, one of the key differences with Mimecast is that we do something by which we look at the source code of the attachment. So we look at, what was this attachment designed to do? Was it designed to look at your cache? Was it designed to look at your memory? Was it designed to look at, any of, or potentially encrypt any of your files? So essentially, we look at the instructions of the file. Okay, so if we see that this attachment has instructions to do something bad or to do something malicious, we will block it based on the instructions. So that's one of the key things. We don't only block it based on the action, but we block it based on the instructions. which is something that's quite unique to Mimecast. Now, the next thing I want to cover is around your impersonation. Okay. Now, impersonation, there's many ways, there's many, I guess, versions of it. Some people call it impersonation, some people call it spoofing, some people call it CEO fraud. But essentially what that is when someone impersonates your domain, pretending to be you to send emails to you internally. Okay, so a typical example that we see, for an example, like our domain is mimecast.com. So M-I-M-E. What if someone sends an email and calls it Mimecast or M1ME? So the domain looks slightly similar, right? That's one example. Another example is that there's something called a homoglyph generator. Now, if you guys are interested to know more, we can always schedule a more detailed call after this. But essentially, I can show you how we do it. But essentially, homoglyphs is where someone uses special characters that looks like English. So for an example, it could be like an I with a funny dot. It looks to the naked eye like a normal I letter, but it's actually not. It's a special character. Now, what attackers are doing now is that they're using these, special kind of characters to create domains that look similar to your domain and send emails to you, right? And then the last kind of impersonation is where someone uses your exact same domain. Now, if someone uses your domain, but they don't have your DMARC records, Mimecast will block it as spam, because what we will see is that, wait a minute, this domain looks exactly like your domain, but it doesn't have your unique DMARC signature, so we'll block it. Now, the main challenge and the reason why most vendors don't have a solution in place is that these kind of attacks, the email itself isn't malicious. There's no malicious link. There's no malicious attachment. The domain itself is a clean domain. That's why it was passed through by the gateway. It's just using social engineering and special characters to impersonate you, and that's why it's so dangerous. And Mimecast has a solution for this, where we check your domain, we check the display name, we check the reply to address. There's a few checks that we do, and if we do find something suspicious around the message, we will either warn the user, we'll block the email, or we will hold the email for IT to review. Now, all that I mentioned now is everything included in your zone 1, your perimeter solution. But unfortunately, attacks have involved, and zone 1 isn't enough. Protecting your inbound mail isn't enough. What we need to do now as well is that we need to look after your internal mail. Now, customers always ask me, what's the point of looking at my internal mail? It's user to user basis. Users aren't going to do anything malicious because it's internal mail. Unfortunately, users, they're not doing this on purpose. A lot of the time, it's human error. Most of the time, I'll probably say like 90% of the time, it's users just making a mistake because unfortunately, users don't know enough about cybersecurity to know any better. Now, a typical example, why there would be a requirement for having an internal mail solution or internal mail security solution is, for an example, let's say at your company, one of your users, they have a friend that's looking for a job inside your company. So the friend sends his CV to the Gmail account. The user downloads the CV from the Gmail account, and then he attaches the CV to his work email, and he sends it out to HR. Now, without knowing, he didn't know that specific CV had a malicious macro within that Microsoft Word document without knowing, and because of that, the customer gets compromised. We've actually seen this example a few times. That exact example where the user sends out a malicious CV without knowing. Another example could be if the user downloads a file from the internet without knowing that file is potentially dangerous, and then they download that file, attach it to their work email, and send it out to HR or send it out to finance, send it out internally. Now, with most organizations, especially if you're on Office 65, because that mail is internal, it doesn't leave, so it doesn't get scanned by any gateway solution because it's an internal mail, so it doesn't leave Office 65. Now, obviously, because it doesn't leave, it doesn't get scanned, and we don't know if it's secure or not. So this is where Mimecast comes in, because what we're going to do is that we're going to, send the mail back out and then back in again. So essentially, on our side, it looks like it's an inbound mail, even though it's internal. And the same checks that we do for your perimeter, so your URL checks, your attachment checks, your spam checks. If we find that that email is malicious, we will do some action. So we'll either block the email, we'll hold it for IT review, or we'll reject the email. The second thing, or the second proactive way to manage this, is that if we do find something malicious, not only can we block it, but we can remove it from the mailbox. So if you look at best practice when it comes to security, the first thing that we need to do is that we need to isolate the incident. And then the second step that we do is that we need to remove the incident, to make sure that it doesn't spread. And this is what Mimecast can offer you. So if you have an incident happening internally, we can isolate it and we can make sure that it doesn't spread. Now, the next component when it comes to internal mail is that we need to have a solution in place to educate the users. Now, what most customers have is that, they'll either have a third-party company that comes in, maybe once a quarter, once a month, they'll do some training with the users, maybe there's a small exam, and, that's it. Another thing that maybe customers do, it's a bit more manual, but maybe IT would send out an email once a week, once a month. Guys, please be careful of this. Don't click on that. Now, the problem with doing that way is that we don't know if the users are actually listening to us. So if you're sending out the mails out, we don't know if the users are opening up the mail, if the users are listening to us. If you do the classroom training once a quarter, the problem is that it only happens once a quarter. So after that thing is done, the users will forget about it. Right? So what we need to do is that we need to have a solution that's constantly training the customers. Now, the biggest problem with most cybersecurity training solutions is that unfortunately, IT security or IT in general isn't the most interesting subject. For people like you and me, it's interesting because it's our job, it's what we do. But for your normal user, your HR colleague, your finance colleague, they don't care about IT security because it's not interesting to them. Now, what Mimecast has done to get over this or to solve this problem is that we made IT security fun. So like I said, if you want to know more, I can show you the videos in a one-on-one session. But we've created our user awareness videos to be fun, to be short, to be more engaging, because that's the key thing. We need to get the users engaged in email security or security in general. Now, because of the funny videos, what we found is that users are more likely to watch the videos, and more importantly, they're more likely to understand the content and understand the message behind the videos. So, the videos you can decide what subjects you want to use, but it's things like phishing, it's things like password management. There's a few different topics that you can choose from. But the point is that from a user side, the user gets educated on cybersecurity, and the user gets trained, and more importantly, it's engaging and it's fun for them. Because I'll be the first person to tell you, Mimecast isn't going to give you 100% protection. Okay, there's no solution in the world that's going to give you 100%. Unfortunately, you can't guarantee 100% when it comes to security. But what we can do is that we can come close to that as possible, because if the technology fails, if an email comes through, it beats the gateway solution. If we have the user awareness tool in place, at least we have the peace of mind that because the users are trained, if an email comes through that maybe the technology has failed, because of the user awareness training, the user will identify that this email is potentially bad, and they will report this to you. Okay, and furthermore, to the user awareness tool as well, is that there's also fake phishing solutions as well. So if, for example, you want to test the users on cybersecurity, you want to test how effective is the cybersecurity training, you can send them fake phishing mails, see how they respond, and you can identify which of the users are not responding, which of the users are clicking on the links, and you can at least identify which are bad users. So at least you would know that, for example, let's say you have 200 users, and out of those 200 people, maybe there's 5 people that keep on getting the questions wrong. You can identify who's those 5 people, and you can do one-on-one training with them. So it gives you a lot more visibility as to what's happening in your organization. Okay, so I mean that's the Mimecast zone 1 and 2 at the high level. Like I said, if you guys like to know more and have a more in-depth discussion where we can show you the demo of the solution, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can set up a one-on-one session. I'm going to hand over to Richard now. Richard's going to take us through zone 3, which is beyond your perimeter. And yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Tariq, for that. I really do appreciate you sharing the insights and taking us through Zone 1 and 2. Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Amara Singham. I'm the Regional Partner Manager here at Mimecast, and I've been here at Mimecast roughly about 3.5 years now. When I came to this region, you know, I think no one really knew who we were. And as that's evolved over the last couple of years, it's great to see, you know, existing customers, some new customers that have evaluated Mimecast and the proposal that we have to offer to market. Something that's really exciting as part of our go-to-market strategy that's really developed over the last year or so has been Zone 3, which is looking at beyond the perimeter. You mentioned, you know, it's really important strategy and a comprehensive strategy that looks across all different zones. You know, as customers, not just here in the Middle East, but across the world, hackers have decided to really focus, especially during this COVID pandemic, to focus on attacking organizations when they're most vulnerable, when they're going through both personal, business, and financial struggles. This is when they thought is the best time to attack organizations. And so we're going to look at Zone 3 that really looks at some real life scenarios on how attackers attack organizations. And to cover Zone 3, it's really going to be focused around our DMARC analyzer and brand exploit protect as part of the Mimecast solution framework of email security 3.0. Now, to identify an organization to impersonate, it's really, really simple. You find one organization, and you know these are some of the largest organizations out there that you may have already seen some sort of impersonation campaign from hackers. But you just find an organization. But for name's sake, we're going to use Mimecast to provide you an attack scenario of what hackers do in real time. Now, what they do is they register a fake web address. You know, as Tariq pointed out, especially in that early Zone 1 presentation, you know, they could change the character very, very easily, you know, so they can register a new web address, maybe mimecast.com. But there's also new types of attacks like homoglyphs and homographs that if you go into Google and type it, can change the acrylic alphabet of a domains to look like a legitimate domain. So this is step 1. Then they copy the website. Now, anyone on this call that's from a technical background can know that your source code for your website is publicly available. So this is pretty straightforward for hackers that can go and copy your website. The crazy thing about this is when I went onto YouTube and I checked how to copy a website, everything is laid out plain and simple in a 25-minute video. This accessibility is there for everyone. You know, your hackers are not people that are part of, you know, a multi-billion-dollar empire. You know, it could be someone that's bored at home that wants to learn. It could be someone out with a vengeance. It could be an ex-employee. You really just don't know who it is. And so step 3 is to create an imitation phishing portal. You may have seen all of these before, or this may be new to you. And so that is put through in a phishing spoof domain email to many individuals in an organization. Now, it's estimated that 97% of all individuals within an organization cannot identify a sophisticated phishing attack. And over 4% of all individuals within an organization click on some sort of phishing campaign and give up their credentials. Now, this is a clear scenario that happens either at your perimeter, inside your network, but also can happen beyond your perimeter. Now, the anatomy of this attack through registering a fake web domain, cloning content, creating an imitation phishing portal, and then phishing customers from an email spoof domain is something that can happen any time of the day, 24 hours of the day. The beauty for Mimecast in terms of our brand exploit protect beyond the perimeter is making sure that you are protected 24 hours a day. So we're able to take the first step of when they register a fake web domain and use proactive intelligence to identify this 24/7. When they clone content from websites, we're able to use a threat detection agent to notify you immediately if anything from your website, from the source code, has been copied and brought up somewhere else in the world. So someone's created a new domain and used and copied content from your website. But also, if people create an imitation phishing portal, we're able to use remediation services that can happen within a matter of minutes up to hours, just depending on what type of attack that occurs, to remediate from this. And this type of proactive intelligence detection agent or remediation is our brand exploit protect, to provide users from not just protecting their brand from a reputational standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint that can cause millions of dollars worth of damage. Brands that took a lifetime to build can be impersonated in a matter of minutes or seconds. So in order to protect your brand from being used for fraud, this is where Mimecast Brand Exploit Protect, especially in the last year, has gone to market to protect you beyond your perimeter. Now that that's taken care of from a brand exploit protect, another key factor that we see in today's threat landscape is looking at how customers are phished and spoofed from their own email domain. Now, many of you may own one domain, but many of you may own multiple domains. It may be across the UAE, it could be across the world. You may have offices in the UK, in the US, in India, in Saudi Arabia, just across the world. And so, to identify and understand what spoofing is, it's essentially a malicious actor that's impersonating your own domain. So it looks like it's coming from your own domain, but it really is a malicious actor. And the reality is spoofing isn't always evil. It may be a third-party service that you're currently using within your organization. At Mimecast, we use Salesforce, Workday, Marketo internally to leverage these different cloud technologies to make our processes more efficient. Now, because these types of attacks were designed to be really, really easy, so you pick the attacker, you pick the organization, we need to actually understand why it actually is so difficult to stop these types of attacks. Now, as I mentioned, your customers may have many different domains, many different locations, right? From UK, Europe, UAE, Hong Kong, South Africa, across the world. And your customers are sending emails from these multiple locations. Plus, on top of that, you have the added complexity of these different services. Like Salesforce, like Marketo, like Workday, that are using your brand like Marketo to send campaign emails across to your customer base, to your employee base. Now, organizations don't have visibility or control of the use of their own domains. And the reason for this is phishers can now impersonate customer domains outside your own world. And nobody can really tell what is legitimate and what is not. So, how do they do this? They target this through using phishing legitimate credentials that they've gathered, which eventually causes reputational and financial damage to your organization. So to understand this, you need to understand where DMARC comes from. Now, DMARC, if this is a new concept that's completely new to you, it's a protocol that ensures that the receiver knows who you really are and that you know that it's really them. It's looking at how malicious domains impersonations is stopped. So let's actually break what DMARC is, right? DMARC in action is having visibility and control, not only over the domains that you currently own, but over the third-party service and usage that you use. So it's looking at this to permit legitimate use of your own domains and stop the malicious impersonation attacks. Now, what is DMARC? DMARC is a domain-based authentication that looks at also reporting and conformance. So as I mentioned, it's making sure that the receiver really knows it's you and you know it's really them. It's also the visibility over the use of your own domains to stop the malicious domain spoofing. So to give you an example, everyone knows what Amazon and Noon is. They're the intermediary, like you can use as a third-party service that's delivering your package to your door. Now, just the other day, I ordered an air fryer. Now, air fryer I bought from NutriCook on Amazon. Now, in order for NutriCook to know that I received the package, they delivered it via Amazon to my door, but I had to sign over the parcel and provide my Emirate ID, which Amazon took a photo to confirm it was me, the legitimate purchaser of that product. DMARC works in a very similar way. It uses domain-based authentication and reporting and conformance to identify who's really who, and give you control and visibility over your domains. So that begs the question on why isn't everyone using DMARC? The main fundamental reason for this is to set up DMARC correctly and monitor domains correctly is really a manual and time-consuming process. It is also really risky. And unfortunately, because it's time-consuming and risky, it really does, it's quite painful to set up. And so many organizations either don't have this as a policy that's enforced from a governance and risk, or they just haven't gone through the process of setting this up because of the resource allocation or the cost and complexity associated with setting this up. But enforcing DMARC and the protocol shouldn't be this hard. And this is where Mimecast DMARC Analyzer comes into play. We're able to ensure risk-free and effortless DMARC implementation to be able to provide you with the knowledge-based guide to integrate this. We provide real-time integration and visibility through a managed services approach. And this allows you to have the forensic reports and DMARCs of all spoofing that's going on amongst all your domains, both legitimate and third-party services. So this visibility is integrated into a dashboard that you can be leveraged across all different zones. And this is why Mimecast Cyber Resilience protects not just your domains at your perimeter inside your network, but also protects you beyond the perimeter and protecting the domains that you currently own to give you 360 visibility. This is just a snapshot of really why businesses have decided to move to Mimecast DMARC Analyzer. And actually in the UAE, there is a banking regulation that's provided by NISA where all banking institutions have to implement a DMARC policy to make sure that their businesses are protected, because this is a new way of how hackers attack. So you need to protect both the domains you own and domains that you don't own. And so Mimecast 3.0 protection beyond your perimeter provides this through Brand Exploit Protect and DMARC Analyzer. You need to ensure that you have, are protected at the right place, right time, and have the right solutions. And so some of our customers globally, just as an example, like AstraZeneca, a Fortune 500 company, locally, the likes of ZZ Developments and things, have decided to go on the proactive approach to protect you and have this multi-dimensional approach against protecting the different zones. As my colleague Tariq mentioned, Zone 1 and Zone 2 are vitally important, and this is some of the key fundamental areas that businesses see attacks. Protecting you at your perimeter, and these types of attacks that come at your perimeter accounts from an email perspective for 94% of all cyber attacks. Within your network and ensuring your employees understand the risk and identifying and addressing that compromise is just as critical to protecting you within your network, but also making sure that you've got a comprehensive approach that uses web intelligence, detection agents, and rapid takedowns and different enforcement policies to protect you, is to make sure that you can protect beyond the perimeter, to ensure that you have a faster, smarter, and safer than ever approach to protecting your organization.